show for all your latest UFC news and rumors. It's Brian Coyle. It's Sean Stanley. It's the TFM Live podcast. And it's now.
All right, good Wednesday evening. Sean Stanley here in the Miami studios, and I welcome in my colleague, as always, Brian Coyle. How you doing tonight?
I am doing great, Sean. It's good to be talking to you again after a little break due to, I think it's more because my internet service provider has decided to throttle my internet every time we decide to have a podcast. So big thanks to Cablevision on that one. But we are back. We are rolling again with the site after a little time off to take care of a couple back-end things. And we've got a really great fight card that kind of just snuck up on us in UFC 199. Are you excited for 199?
Yeah. I mean, I am. I think, the one fight, it is a pay-per-view card, so at least I get the one chance. I think somebody gets a title shot in there that probably, maybe not technically deserves it, but you know what? I love the UFC. I love the fights, and it's a good card.
Let the record show that I asked you if you were excited. You responded with the, like you just responded with the high-pitched voice. And we'll get to Faber. Don't worry. I know you have some strong feelings about Urijah Faber getting another title shot at bantamweight. But this whole card, we'll get into a whole bunch of stuff. Michael Bisping, Luke Rockhold, obviously the main event. Dominick Cruz, Urijah Faber, Max Holloway, and Ricardo Lamas on this card. Whole bunch of stuff to talk about. We want to remind you guys, we are thefullmountmma.com. You can find us on Twitter at thefullmount. You can find me. I'm Brian Coyle on Twitter at bcoyle11. If you guys ever want to talk MMA or anything else on Twitter, of course, at SS Sports Talk for Sean. We have this podcast you're listening to. If you're listening to it live right now, you can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, TFM Live. Easy to reach. Just type it in the search bar. Boom, it pops up. Rate us, subscribe to us, like us, do all that great stuff. And then you can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Just type in The Full Mount. So that's all the house cleaning stuff. If you ever need to find anything at us, tweet at us. We'll give you all that information. Very easy to find. Sean, where do you want to start? Because we had Cody Garbrandt and Thomas Almeida in an awesome bantamweight fight last Saturday from Vegas. And the bantamweight division is kind of in flux with these young stars coming up. And at the top, we see Dominick Cruz and Urijah Faber. Where do you want to begin with this card?
Let's go ahead and let's just, what do you want to start with, like the prelims? You want to go down with the beginning of the card, or we got our beautiful fight pass prelims? You know what?
By your feelings on Faber, let's get that out of the way first. I feel like this is going to take a little while to describe here. So, co-main event, Dominick Cruz, Urijah Faber, third fight between the guys. First one, Faber won back in the WEC days at featherweight. Dominick Cruz later defends his title at UFC 132 against Urijah Faber in a 5-round decision victory. And now we get the third fight between them. I wrote an article that you can find on thefullmountmma.com. It's just a complete breakdown of the fight, anything you need to know, how each fighter can win and all that sort of stuff. You were in the camp that Urijah Faber did not deserve this title shot. Why is that?
Listen, I mean, look, I'm all for, the name game, I guess you want to call it. But, and I understand, look, Cruz just beat, Dillashaw and things like that. But I just, where does Faber, what has he done? I guess is my thing to say, okay, you know what? You thrust, all he did was talk. And these days, and we've talked about it before here on this podcast, you could talk yourself into a title fight just like that in some of these divisions.
Well, this is the kind of the way the UFC works now. Like it's the title. I mean, McGregor, of course, is the guy that everyone points to. He says the titles don't matter, and it gets to a point where the titles matter in some divisions and don't. And when you see these guys acting like, is the title the biggest thing in the world here? And it should be, but sometimes it doesn't come off as such. Faber has won 3 straight fights at bantamweight. Alex Caceres, Francisco Rivera, and Frankie Saenz in a fight that didn't honestly look too good for Faber. His last loss was against Frankie Edgar at featherweight. But this is the sort of thing we're dealing with at bantamweight. We've got a bunch of young guys trying to come out. Aljamain Sterling lost to Brian Caraway last week, and now he wants a title shot. Because Caraway done enough? Not even close. Cody Garbrandt goes out and shuts down a very good prospect in Thomas Almeida.
Yeah.
Is Cody Garbrandt the future of this division?
He can't get in the top 15.
Yeah, that's as much as you want to throw the UFC rankings under the bus, because honestly, it's a shame who actually votes. Some of the people who actually vote for that. It's absolutely incredulous when you look at that stuff. But when you see the guys like Garbrandt and guys like Caraway pining for a title shot, it makes you think, like, oh, maybe Faber kind of fit into the spot. TJ Dillashaw, of course, lost to Dominick Cruz in what some people called controversial. I thought it was the right call, Cruz winning that fight. Javier Sunsao had been out for a while. He fights Dillashaw at 200. So to me, that kind of makes sense. And Faber's the kind of guy left without a fight, and you want to make a big fight. And these guys sell the fight. The old fighting cliche that everyone loves to say, these guys don't like each other. Well, yeah, they don't like each other. They talk a lot of smack towards one another, and it sells the fight. And that's why Faber is in this position right now.
I mean, yeah, because he can talk. And that's what I don't understand is, look, there was also a guy that needs a fight that's a champ too. Why don't you start making some super fights? I mean,
I'm totally on board with you with that, with Demetrius Johnson, Dominick Cruz. I want to see that fight again, because watching their first initial fight back in 135, it's a very different Mighty Mouse right now. But you saw the shades of him, like about to become this guy where he's like, oh my God, he's going to dominate the flyweight division for as long as he has. But when you look at this fight, like, regardless of whether Faber deserves the title shot, he's got it. It's his fourth title shot. He's never won a UFC belt. Of course, he's a former WEC featherweight champ. Mm-hmm. How does Urijah Faber, like, who do you give the advantage to this? When you look at this fight, when you break it down, how do you see it?
I mean, I watched Cruz, and he lived up to his name. I mean, look, he had glimpses in the Dillashaw fight where I was like, oh, maybe a little rust, but all in all, and then I think he actually had an injury too, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't he get injured a little bit in that
fight? I think
he
tore his heel, or he did something in his foot.
Yeah, in his foot where he couldn't, because I was like, uh-oh, here we go. But, I mean, he didn't look like he missed any time, I mean, compared to what I thought was going to happen.
Which is insane.
Yeah, and you look at, Faber, I don't know what he can, I mean, look, the guy fights. I mean, I'm not going to, he's got a heart, whatever you want to say, the heart of a champion or whatever you want to call it. But I just think Dominick Cruz is at a different level right now. I know back in the day, look, Faber beat him and then he beat Faber. But I just don't think he's got it right now to stay with Dominick Cruz in this fight. I don't. You got the puncher's chance. I mean, everybody's seen how that works out. I mean, Stipe Miocic, I mean, he's walking around with the UFC heavyweight title because he landed a punch and baited. But I don't think Dominick Cruz has the head and that mentality to where he's going to go in and get off of his game plan. I mean, you saw Verdum, when he got off his game plan, he starts charging in at him and he came in sloppy and he ate the right hook and down he went. I don't see Cruz giving that opening, and I think that's the opening that Faber's going to have to get in order to win this fight. I don't see it going any other way. I mean, I don't see him getting a submission victory on him. I don't know. I mean, watching the way Cruz looked in his last fight, I thought there would be a lot more rust there.
Yeah,
and he looked good, and that scares me.
It should, because you're looking at a guy, Dominick Cruz, who's coming off 3 ACL injuries. He tore the first one, then the second one didn't take, and then he gets hurt again, and then he tears a quad. And this guy, the biggest, you mentioned the Dillashaw fight, he looked exactly the same. He does this circling. He does all this movement. He always feints and moves back and forth. He's the most active fighter when it comes to just moving around the octagon that we've seen in a long, long time. And if he does that, he usually wins. And people call him the decisionator for it. And it doesn't matter if he's still winning the belt. Yeah. He beat TJ Dillashaw and won the title after a 4-year layoff.
I mean, his takedown average is 2-1 to Faber.
His wrestling is great. Yeah. His sprawl is terrific. And I kind of equate it to this. And you mentioned the puncher's chance thing. And like, you can, in the article, I go a little bit in depth, but I want to break it down here. It's kind of the Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner analogy. I like to put it this way, where you've got Cruz who's moving around and moving around and moving around, and you can't touch him and you can't hit him, and it's the way Anderson Silva would always move back and forth and duck punches and do all this crazy stuff because he was that fast. Dominick Cruz is that fast where he can circle and move, and he may get hit, but they're glancing blows, and he knows, I can take a hit there to do this. Cruz is always 3 steps ahead. He's one of the most intelligent fighters out there, and his intelligence combined with the fact that his footwork is so it looks so unorthodox, yet it's so precise when what he does left and right and going back and forth. It's so hard to tag him and do something about it. And he can just kind of dive in and do whatever he wants. And the thing with Faber is the way he wins his fight is he catches him and does that little 5-foot sprint to close the distance and jump all over him and hit him again and knock him out. Or because I think Cruz is too good to be caught in a guillotine like he was in the first fight.
Well, I guess if he could land a punch though and get his back while he's droggy or whatever, he might have an opportunity. But it's all going to come down to him landing that punch, to set everything up.
That's like he needs to catch him flush and then go for it. Because you don't get many opportunities against Dominick Cruz to, number one, hit him. Number two, hit him hard. Mm-hmm. And number three, if you do hit him hard, to be able to jump on top of him, because we've seen Cruz in these wrestling sprawls, and he can just move so quickly and so elegantly and do these transitions back and forth. It's like he's watching the fight from above while being in the fight. He can do all these crazy things. And Faber is a fighter. Faber is active. He goes for it, which I love when I watch him fight.
No, I love watching him fight, but I just don't feel that, as a fighter, I mean, he's a great fighter to watch, but I just think that sometimes they let these guys talk themselves into title fights, and it just doesn't make sense to me how I know now he's number 2, he is number 2 in the division, but you look at some of these other guys that I'd rather see Cruz. I mean, now after watching, Garbrandt the other day, take on Garbrandt or somebody like that, rather than see Faber get his 4th shot at a title.
This is it for Faber. Yeah. You have to imagine this is it. Because...
But let me ask you this, because, we talk all this stuff all the time about the fights. And what happened with Miocic, you see the puncher's chance thing. Faber wins his title. As long as Dillashaw wins his next fight, it's going to be Faber-Dillashaw, right?
Oh, completely. I mean, if Dillashaw loses and Faber loses, they'll do Dillashaw-Faber. Yeah. If Dillashaw wins, do you give him that title shot again?
I mean, it's been a little while. I understand not giving it to him right away, but I mean, if he looks good in that fight, I don't see how you could keep him from not getting a title shot.
Absolutely. So it's such a weird spot, and you look at these rankings, and you throw the rankings out the window. You can use them as like an argument where this guy is in the upper echelon, this guy is in the middle. But these numbers are when you see the people voting on this, it's so arbitrary and so dumb, because you have these great analysts that do all this stuff for the big things, and then you get these random dudes who you don't even know where they can find what they're doing, and they're still voting on these UFC rankings. I saw somebody who kept Aljamain Sterling in the same spot and kept Brian Caraway in the same spot, despite the fact that Caraway beat Sterling. This is the kind of people we're dealing with the rankings. So I don't put too much stock in that at all. What I do put stock in is they wanted to sell this card, and Weidman, Rockhold, they needed a big co-main event to go along with it.
Yeah.
And Cruz Faber sells.
Yeah.
Because Faber is one of the most beloved, and rightly so, fighters that we've had.
Not only that, but look where the fight is.
It's in L.A. It's great.
Yeah,
the Forum. Like,
he's the California kid.
I didn't know that the Forum was still doing things.
Yeah, they're at the Forum, or is it at the Staples Center?
No, it's at the Forum.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Like that's this. It's
better dust that boy off.
Exactly. This is a fun fight, and like more like when it was first announced, we both talked about it, and we were like Faber, does he really deserve it? We want the super fight. But now it's fight week, and I'm getting excited about this fight. And
Look, I like him as a fighter, and he goes in and he'll fight. That's I guess, he's going to have an exciting fight. I just don't know, how, is it going to be where he gets frustrated and Cruz just frustrates him, and it's going to be because at the same time, he gets frustrated and I don't say he shuts down, but you don't see the same Faber in the fight.
Yeah, that's for sure. And if he gets frustrated, Cruz has him right where he wants him.
Yeah.
If Faber doesn't get to Dominick Cruz early, he's in trouble because his frenetic pace will tire him out. He'll be able to do these things where Cruz is feinting and moving back and forth, and Faber will get frustrated and get suckered in and get tired. That's what happens. Cruz, he doesn't have the heaviest hands in the world, obviously, but he can suck the life out of his opponent by making them throw. Which is crazy because it's a fight and you want to most guys want to control it. They want to do what they do and make the other fighter fight the way they do. Cruz will just sit back, move, and make Faber just get so PO'd that he'll leave himself susceptible to these punches. And I think Cruz leaves LA with the title, 5-round unanimous decision victory. How do you see it?
Yeah, I got it. I mean, look, he's the decision-nator for a reason, and I think he's going to frustrate him for the five rounds.
I think it will still be a fun fight. I don't think it will be a boring fight.
I think he's going to frustrate him enough to where he's going to kind of just end up playing with him. I just think it's not that he's going to make him look silly or stuff, but he's going to be able to pick his punches when he wants to go out there and what he wants to do with this fight.
Yeah, I just can't get the Frankie Edgar fight out of my head for Faber because that's the last thing I can take against elite competition.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm saying. Every time he gets in a fight with elite competition, if you look at his record, he doesn't show up.
Yeah, it's so he's gonna. This is a major opportunity for him, and as much as people can railroad him for the fact that probably does he deserve it? I don't know, but he's here. It's a fun fight. It's a trilogy. It's got all the makings of one of those fights where people get excited about
and
it.
They don't like each other.
Yep, trust me. It's the two things you'll hear all week in sports, besides when you're talking about the NBA Finals, is these two guys don't like each other, and Ryan Fitzpatrick went to Harvard. That's all I've been hearing about in the New York area for the past 84 days that Ryan Fitzpatrick has held out. But man, I am excited for this fight. I think it will be very fun. I got Cruz by decision. You got Cruz by decision.
Yep.
So we'll mark that one down. Am I 0-2? And we got to talk about this. I'm 1-1. You're 2-0
yeah.
in the pay-per-view. Because we're doing every pay-per-view.
The co-main event and the main event. Yep.
Yes, because you accurately predicted Miocic.
That's right.
For Doom.
I didn't pick him in the first round though. I think third round.
Yeah. I was right about. I was not right about Jacare in the right round.
Yeah.
Because, man, he took care of Vitor.
Yeah, we both saw that one coming.
Yes.
I think.
That's for sure. So we'll get to the main event going up a little bit. You know what? We'll do the main event next in the show, and then later on, we've got a new 3 and Out on the website that you can check out on the FullMountMMA.com, specifically suited about Ronda Rousey. And there's been some training videos that came out this week. Cris Cyborg, of course, after her fight at UFC 198, didn't call her out during the event, but then later called her out, possibly pining for an MSG fight. We're going to talk about that and why.
The Running Man challenge with calling her out.
I know. The Running Man challenge
is
right sweeping today's show. We will not be doing one of those. Because
no.
I'm just speaking from. This is just a guess. I don't think you can dance, Sean.
No, yeah. Well, Come on now. I'm round. I don't dance.
But I can't dance either, so that will not be happening at all. And also, I've got a question for you about a certain fighter who I'm waiting for a fight for him to get booked, and it hasn't happened yet. So we'll get into that. Ronda Rousey's potential fight with Cris Cyborg and the main event of UFC 199 when we come back on TFM Live, the official podcast of the FullMountMMA.com.
For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to the FullMountMMA.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley.
All right, Sean Stanley, Brian Coyle back with you here. TFM Live, the official podcast of the FullMountMMA.com. Make sure you go there, check out the articles that are posted. And we will now dive into the main event for UFC 199, Brian. It will be the champion, Luke Rockhold, against the challenger, well, now the new challenger, Michael the Count Bisping.
Yes, and I am more excited for this fight than I was Rockhold Weidman, which I don't know if that tells you something about the way Weidman's drawing. I don't know if that tells you something about the fact that people are so tired of immediate rematches, especially if a guy doesn't deserve one.
Yeah, especially when you get outclassed the way you did in the first title fight.
Yeah, and I'm a New York guy, so I'm a big Weidman fan.
You'd be a Weidman guy.
Yeah, so this is...
You guys just turn your back on your own all the time up there.
I mean, it is New York City. It's unforgiving, trust me. Rockhold Bisping, Jacare was the guy who deserved this fight. Problem was he just fought at 198, tore his meniscus.
Yep.
He wasn't going to come in. This is the perfect time for Michael Bisping to get his title shot. Because I thought he maybe after beating Anderson Silva, I'm like, okay, this guy, if he gets a title shot, his next fight, that's fine with me. Because Bisping has earned it. He's been in the UFC for a decade, 25 fights. This guy has been through the ringer and back, and he's finally getting his first and possibly last. I mean, we don't know if he's going to ever get another title shot against Rockhold on 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah,
which it's so tough. For anybody to fight.
It's tough, but you have to remember, he didn't fight too long ago.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's been just off and doing nothing. He just fought Silva maybe a month ago?
Yeah. Silva was in February.
Was it? Wow, man.
Late February.
Wow, it seemed like it was a lot earlier than that. Wow, it's been that long. Okay.
The point, you make a good point given the fact that fighters should be so used to guys leaving co-main events and main events of fights.
You got to be ready.
Well, you should be ready. If you're up close to the top and you want a title shot, stay ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
especially when you're somebody like Bisping, who you really need this opportunity to kind of cash in your title opportunity.
Yeah, when you saw guys like Mendez and Edgar want to fill in immediately with Jose Aldo being out, this is the kind of opportunity you can get. I mean, Javier Dos Anjos is out. Nate Diaz, I'll take the fight on 9 days. And look what happens then. Mm-hmm. Rockhold Bisping is a fun fight. We've seen it before, though. And it did not turn out well for Michael Bisping. Second round submission back in 2014 for Rockhold of Bisping. And as much as I want to see, people are rooting for Michael Bisping in this fight because he's been through it all. This is one of those things. I see Bisping having the same chance of Faber beating Cruz. I just think it's a really unlikely scenario, and a lot of things have to happen perfectly for Bisping to get the title here. And Rockhold he's such a dynamic fighter. He's got the length, he's got the moves, he's got everything that you want. He's got the power behind those vicious kicks. He's got an awesome submission game. I don't see the clear favorite here is Luke Rockhold. What do you see out of this fight?
No, I agree with, and it's going to sound cliche when we say this, but Bisping is going to have to do what he does best.
Yeah.
And that's go for the kill. Now, you have nothing to lose here. You have, no. I mean, you've lost the one fight to him, not looking good. So what do you have to lose here? This is your opportunity. You took the fight on 2 week notice. go out there, and you've seen it happen. I think that's the one thing that every fighter, when, you know, and they say it all the time, look, anybody that goes into an MMA fight has a puncher's chance. And it's been so accurate, especially these last couple of UFCs, and you see somebody, the Miocic fight, and I keep going back to that because I don't think a lot of people thought Miocic would honestly be able, whether it was Verdum not allowing him, but I don't think people thought that he would be able to get into to land those punches. And sometimes I think the champion mentality is that I'm better than this guy. I've already beaten all this competition. I'm better than this guy. And they end up leaving themselves open.
And the argument you have to make is right in front of us with Chris Weidman. Mm-hmm. Chris Weidman threw a wheel kick.
Yeah.
Because he was desperate.
Yeah.
Like, these champions kind of get into that mindset. If they get tagged a little bit, they seem to get a little nervous. Mm-hmm. And you even get the best who kind of fall into this trap. And Luke Rockhold is a minus 1,100 favorite.
Oh, I got him as a -9 on the one I'm looking at.
Well, the UFC website is a minus 1,100 favorite. I'm guessing that's only going to grow until the late money comes in on Bisping to get a good price. Rockhold should beat him. He made easy work of Bisping last time. And when you watch Bisping fight, I mean, he got rocked by Silva at the end of that third round, and we thought he was done. But he did more than Anderson Silva and won it via decision. Bisping's the type of guy who likes to do our favorite thing that we like to say on this podcast, make it ugly. He wants to fight in a phone booth. He wants to close the distance. He wants to go after him. He wants to fight. He wants to throw punches. He wants to do all of this stuff. And with the exception of his Rockhold fight, he's won 4 out of the last 5. He beat a tough guy in CB Dalloway. He won a tough fight against Styles Laitis, and then he beat Silva. And you have to give him credit for what he's still being able to do. It's just, is he going to be able to cut off the cage and be able to cut off the distance against a guy like Rockhold who's got a 77-inch reach? He's got a 5-inch reach on him.
A 5-inch reach there, and 1 inch on the kicks. But I just, the question is Rockhold gonna allow him? Because sometimes I haven't seen Rockhold fight. This is his first title defense. And sometimes, for some reason, it seems like the champions, once they become a champion, they flip it a little bit. They try something. I don't know why. Hey, if it's not broke, why are they trying to fix it? And you see him kind of fight differently. Will that happen to Rockhold? And will Bisping be able to take advantage if he does do that? And I think that's going to be Bisping's only chance.
Yes, for sure. And I go back, when I watch Rockhold and you watch him in that Weidman fight, and Weidman had the advantage in a little bit, but the strikes begin to mount and just go and go.
The second round it started, and then kick from nowhere, whatever.
And I have a full breakdown of the fight that you can see on the fullmountmma.com, of course, but I didn't mention in the breakdown the Lyoto Machida fight. And that fight back in April of last year kind of showed me, like, Rockhold, when he wants to be as dangerous as he is, can instantly shut down anybody. Like, he's got that type of potential at this weight class, which is a big thing to say given the fact that Anderson Silva dominated this weight class for 6 years.
But does he get lazy now that he's gotten
the meal? The key here. Like, he's got to continue. Like, he's got this kind of I don't give a blank mentality when it comes to media interviews, and like he's got this cocky arrogance to it.
Yeah, that's the thing that kind of rubs me the wrong way with him. Is that just a act, or is that because sometimes you get that cockiness in there and you think you already got this fight won because you beat this guy before rather easily.
Yeah,
and you set yourself up. It's a mindset. They say fighting. What is it like? It's 80% mental or whatever, however they say.
90% mental, 10% physical.
There you go. Thank you very much for that. I didn't even remember what it was. So, I mean, right there, could that help Bisping out? Because, every interview I've seen and the build-up for this fight is just, Bisping's kind of like, you see him being, I don't know, maybe it's because he's been in the media and doing those, the desk jobs, so he's kind of got it down to a science of how he can just kind of be not nonchalant about it, but very calm about it, and just monotone voice about what he wants to do and this and that. And then they go to Rockhold and it's just like, I'm going to win. Is it confidence or is it arrogance? And it's kind of on that borderline.
As much as you want, these guys obviously play up their personalities in the media if they want, and then sometimes you get guys that's legit who they are. And I think Rockhold's a little bit of both. I think you have this guy who's worked hard and grinded all the way and done all this stuff. But then you do have that, that's kind of his personality. He believes what he can do, and you need that. Especially as a champion, you go out in every single fight. But you can't let that kind of filter into your mind in the fight, because nobody, you rarely get a guy who can kind of just talk so much crap during a fight and take your eye off the prize here, because they can hit us just as hard as you. This is the UFC. This is the highest level of mixed martial arts. Yeah. People are they're getting paid for a reason too. So you can't underestimate people, but at the same time, you need to have that confidence. You need to have that thing about you that says, I'm the best in the world, and I'm going to go out and do this. And
but you got to be able to have that balance, though, I think. But you got to have that balance. And so far, most of the time, it seems like, and again, just that most of the champions get a little bit over to the cocky side and get caught. Look, that's why Weidman got the belt.
Yeah.
Silva got cocky, did his little dance, and he tagged him.
Completely.
I mean, he put his hands down, did his dance around, and Weidman nailed him. I mean, the cockiness of it after a while. But I guess, look, if you're Silva and you've been dominating as long as you were dominating, I guess after a while, you earn it?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the champions, you have, the turnaround of champions.
It's ridiculous right now.
Tremendous, with the exception of Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, I mean, you got
with the exception of John Jones, who's not even the champion right now, because of the fact that all the stuff that went on with him. You have a bunch of turnover, and this is people are starting to the fighters are starting to catch up with one another, where you have these razor thin differences between everybody. And the biggest example of that is, of course, Ronda Rousey, and we'll talk about her in a little bit. But with Rockhold, middleweight is such a nasty division, and Weidman is out. We don't know when he comes back. That neck injury is a little Kurt Angle-y a little bit.
I mean, Kurt Angle actually sent out a tweet to him to get in touch with him, and he'll, he's like, hey, I know what you do with your necks, and so.
Yeah, it's a little professional wrestling kind of when guys get that neck injury, you usually don't come back and be the guy that you were.
No.
Jacare's getting up there. He just tore his meniscus. He's going to be able to start training again supposedly in 6 weeks, because they probably just took some out and then just folded it over, and that's the kind of surgery that has a time frame on it. It's got a ticking clock.
Yep.
When it comes to that sort of stuff, it's not a complete meniscus tear.
Especially when you're doing what they do with their bodies.
Yeah, it's a Dwayne Wade injury. That's what I love to call it when it comes to that sort of stuff. And Vitor is completely on the way out, it seems like, after that. So Bisping's the next guy, and he's like you said, this is his shot. He's going to leave it all out on the line. They showed in the UFC Embedded, it's his kid is picking against him, maybe. This is the kind of thing where he's got no pressure on him at all. And Rockhold's got to go out and deliver a dominant champion performance to signify, I'm the champ, I'm the middleweight champ, I'm going to run through these people. He's in the prime of his career. He's got all the talent in the world. And this is kind of an emphatic statement that he can make. Whether or not he'll be able to is another story, despite the fact that it's 2 weeks' notice. He may be in the best shape of his life, but he's not. He hasn't been preparing for Bisping all this time. And will he take him lightly because he knows how he fights? That's a great question. How do you see this fight playing out?
Oh, you're gonna make me go first? I was hoping you would go first on this.
Oh, I can go first. Right. I mean, my opinion's out there. I got Rockhold beating Bisping by third round TKO. I think Bisping hangs with him for the first couple of rounds, and I think that gas tank just goes on empty because, I mean, Bisping's got great cardio, don't get me wrong, but I think it's just going to be a little too much to deal with the more athletic and more pinpoint accuracy. He's got a lot less room for error here, and I think he runs out of gas by the third round. Rockhold catches him. What do you think?
I think I'm going to end up probably taking this one back, but I'm going to go with Bisping.
You're going to go with Michael Bisping beating him on 2 weeks' notice.
Yep.
I just think he's got nothing to lose.
You're absolutely right.
He's got nothing to lose in this fight. And honestly, all the pressure goes on Rockhold in the fact that, he's the champion. So if you watch the UFC go around, other than Johnson and some of the other ones which we've called out, it's a revolving championship door. I do understand he's got all the skills and all thing there. I just think the fact that he's beat him so easily before is fuel for Bisping, and I think it might be the exact opposite for Rockhold. And I think it's a perfect combination for if you want to have an upset, for an upset to happen. Again, I may eat my words on this, but I just have that feeling that, look, Bisping's got nothing to lose. This is your chance. The only shot you're going to get at this. It's been this long before you've gotten a shot. Look, I would not put it past if Rockhold gets him in the first round just because he's swinging for the fences. But I got my pick was on Bisping.
My question for you is, Bisping's fights are usually these full championship round, 3-round decisions.
Yep.
Can Bisping beat Rockhold like that in this fight?
If he keeps it ugly.
You think he can go 25 minutes with him?
He's got to land something cooking early. He's got to land it early. I'm not going to lie. I think he runs out of gas. If he gets a 4 in championship rounds, I'm going to eat my words. But I just think that Rockhold's going to come out, and I don't think it's all necessarily confidence. I think a lot of this is arrogance.
Interesting. I mean, I see where you're coming from for sure. And I think Bisping, if he's going to beat him, I think he's going to catch him early. I think that because everyone's got a jaw. Is,
I look at the Verdum fight with Miocic, and you just, for some reason, I don't understand what it is that it seems like every champion forgets what got him there, and then sits there and plays into the hand of the guy they're fighting. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm not in that environment as far as the fighting environment, and is it them outsmarting themselves? If I go into this fight, I know what I fought last time, so I need to switch it up. Is that their thinking? And then they end up like outthinking themselves, and then they eat something and it's over.
Yeah, I mean, there is the recency bias. Like Miocic dropping Verdum is etched in our head.
No, yeah, definitely,
of course. But
Rousey. I mean, you start looking at all these, even the underdogs, though, Brian. I mean, when you look back, going way back to Home Rousey. I mean, and then you looked at Tate and Home. I mean, you start, that one was Rousey Home was a little bit more, of an upset. But you just start looking at things that happened. You looked at Holly Holm against Ronda Rousey, and you're like, oh, she's going to beat Tate. And then she's a completely different fighter, which I understand because Tate's a different fighter. But why don't you go with what got you the belt? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's a fight by you. You kind of sold me here on this Bisping thing because there is these two angles where you have this dominant, like a guy who could be a dominant champion, Rockhold, but you do have that outside chance on Bisping. I'm excited for this. I'm more excited for this fight than I was with Weidman, I'll be honest.
No, yeah, definitely. I really thought if it was Rockhold Weidman, I'd pick Rockhold all day because Weidman showed me nothing against Rockhold.
Yeah, and that's amazing.
Not that Bisping did either, but there was two different time frames.
Yeah.
I mean, Weidman and Rockhold was just what pay-per-view were they at?
What, 194?
So what? 5 pay-per-views ago. I mean, I just don't think you make up that much ground.
For sure. A reminder to everybody listening, if you're listening right now, if you're listening to the podcast, if you don't have time to listen to the whole podcast straight through on iTunes or on YouTube, we cut up the podcast in little chunks. You get the whole preview of the Dominick Cruz Urijah Faber fight. We'll have the full preview of this fight up in its own YouTube video. And we've got a couple other things we want to talk about in the podcast. As we were mentioning, the Ronda Rousey Cris Cyborg potential for a fight. I have a very strong opinion on this, Sean, and I think you do too, so we'll talk about that. And it's June 1st. It was December of 2014 we heard that CM Punk signed with the UFC. He has not fought yet. We will give you an update on when he could be potentially fighting when we come back on TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com.
For all your latest news and rumors of the UFC, go to thefullmountmma.com. Now back to the TFM Live podcast. Here's Brian Coyle and Sean Stanley.
Welcome back, everybody, to the TFM Live podcast. I am Brian Coyle. He is Sean Stanley. Remember, you can tweet at us if you have anything you want us to talk about on the show, any opinions you want mentioned, any questions you want asked. Feel free. Tweet at us at VCoyle11 for me, at SS Sports Talk for Sean, at The Full Mount. If you want to tweet at the site, of course, you can find everything on thefullmountmma.com, the Full Mount MMA YouTube channel, and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, the TFM Live. In the search bar, you'll find it immediately. Sean, I have to ask you, man, we did a 3 and out on Ronda Rousey and a Cris Cyborg fight. And you can find it on the site right now. Should Ronda Rousey fight Cris Cyborg in MSG at UFC 205? The answer to this question to me was fairly obvious. What did you think about the potential for a Rousey Cyborg fight in the future, let alone Madison Square Garden in November?
I mean, it's taken this long for anybody to agree. I mean, they still haven't agreed on a weight.
Yeah.
And I mean, to think that this fight is going to happen, this is my only thing is why would it happen? You know, I mean, who gets what out of it, I guess is my only
Cyborg
thing.
gets everything.
Cyborg gets everything, and maybe to me, and I don't know if you want to get into what our thoughts were on the whole thing or what I kind of posted on the 3 and out, which you can catch at thefullmountmma.com. But to me, if that is the first fight back, that tells me that Rousey probably will not be in the UFC that much longer because she's looking for money and she's getting out.
If Ronda Rousey wants to continue have a second act to her MMA career, she should not fight Cris Cyborg in her comeback fight. That's not even a question.
Yeah.
And
if it is, that's what I'm saying. It's just a money fight. It's just get the money and get out. That's it. And I think she's done with it.
It's amazing how quickly the tide turned on Rousey from being this universally beloved fighter. And then we saw the women's bantamweight division caught up to her. And she'd beaten Tate, she'd beaten Kat Zingano, she'd beaten pretty much everybody in the home who did not deserve a title fight by any stretch of the imagination. Perfect game plan, best coaches in the world, and Winklejohn and Greg Jackson. She goes out, completely devastates Rousey. Rousey, I don't know what the game plan was. Tarverdian, her trainer, he's gotten destroyed since that fight, and rightly so, because when you listen to the audio of her corner, she's getting the crap beat out of her, and he's saying, "Beautiful champ, good right." Like there's no, I don't know what the hell he was doing or what he was thinking. And I saw an Instagram video of Rousey training, throwing just punches in one of the weirdest ways. I tweeted about it. You can find it on my Twitter. It's just one of the weirdest things. I don't know what the drill was doing. She was just throwing hooks to the body very slowly and jumping off of each foot. It was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. And Rousey's not a striker. It's one of these things where she wanted to be a striker all of a sudden. When she beat up Betch Kohea, who honestly not that good. That's why, I mean, she obviously destroyed her because she's not nearly on the level that Rousey is. And her judo is amazing. Her submission game is great. On the ground, she's great. Stand up. We've seen it against elite level fighters. No, don't do that. And now it seems like that's where her training is kind of leaning. And you want to fight Cyborg in your comeback fight? You're just asking for it. It's a bad idea on so many levels. Going up in weight because Cyborg shouldn't drop down to 135. It's just a mess from every stretch of the imagination to me.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
It's absolutely positively one of the worst career decisions. If she wants to continue, look, we don't know.
No, that's the whole thing. That's what I mean as far as that goes. If she's just in it for one fight, a big money fight, then do it.
Yeah,
but it's probably your last fight in the UFC.
more power to you. But if you want to continue your career, I mean, the Miesha Tate fight is the one that the UFC can easily set up and sell it. Because, as we know, you don't need these title fights back and forth. Like, Rousey was so dominant for so long, and she got clobbered by Holm, and then Holm missed her chance at a money fight by taking Tate and losing. So now, Rousey fighting Tate in a fight that she personally believes probably has an easier chance of winning than against a boxer like Holm, or a devastating striker, probably the best in women's MMA history in Cyborg. It's just, to me, this would be it. And if she beats Cyborg, then Rousey's instantly, it's a gigantic risk. She instantly reaches back to where she was. Because the UFC's got this weird situation with Cyborg where she's 140, she won't make it down to 135. It's physically possible. It's not healthy and should not be done, personally, for me.
Yeah, I mean, it might be physically, but it's definitely not.
She got down to 138, and I don't know where the other 3 pounds was going to come off.
Yeah, I mean, she looked dry on that scale.
It was just not. It didn't look safe. And Rousey's comeback fight is going to be one of the biggest things when we'll see it in the fall. If and when she comes back, I think she's coming back. We don't know for sure. It's very if she doesn't want to fight anymore, don't fight anymore. Like, she's done everything pretty much you can do, but she didn't go undefeated, and now she has to deal with having that loss,
and that's her fault. Honestly, I mean, it comes down to her, the camps that she held on and the things that she did.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to say no to Dana White, but maybe this was one of the fights, after beating Bethe Correia in August, she should have been, it was originally supposed to be January, remember, when Lawler and Condit was switched because of Lawler's injury. So it was supposed to be in January. She takes the fight in November instead, and this is what happened. Now, this is a mistake from her career, where she can bounce back and do what she wants. And she went into a dark place mentally. It all kind of unraveled, and now she seems to be coming back. And she has to be careful if she wants the longevity of her career. If she wants to go for the Cyborg fight and test herself immediately, good for her. It's just, I don't think she's got the advantage in the fight unless somehow she switches gyms, which she's been adamant that Edmund Tarverdyan is her coach. And I think it's a bad idea.
I'd be about that.
Like everything about that training, it seems more and more, as, like I mentioned, the fighters in the division are catching up to the champions. The fighters have never been better than they have been at this point, because everyone's kind of getting on a level playing field. I mean, especially with the sport being cleaned up a little bit as well. This is the kind of thing she's dealing with, and she has to figure out, do you want the Cyborg fight at 140? Now, I would recommend, if I was her camp, you don't want that one to be the first one you get back. You want to fight Miesha Tate for the title? Go for it. If you want to fight somebody else as a warm-up fight, go for it. But she should not fight Cris Cyborg. I mean, that's all I got on that, Sean.
No, I agree with you 100%. As I said in my part, and I'll say it again, is the only way she's fighting Cyborg is if she's in this for a big money cash out and one fight and she's gone.
I think that's it.
And other than that, you take a lighter fight or a tune-up fight or a Tate fight or something like that, as far as, however you want to do it, and come back. Then you're thinking long term. If not, everything else is short term to me.
For
if
sure.
you take Cyborg, it's short term, and that's it.
So, on the subject of potential fights, we can close out here with this. December of 2014, CM Punk was signed as a UFC fighter. He's not fought yet. He's getting up there in age. He's 37 years old. He's never fought in mixed martial arts. He's still signed with the UFC. He's done a great job promoting the UFC and doing all that stuff. He's not fought. Will we ever see Punk fight? Is it getting to the point where it's this is a little weird? I know Mickey Gall sent out a tweet, the kid who was found on the UFC looking for a fight series out of Philly and Jersey. He was the guy who was supposed to get him. and that fight was supposed to happen, and Punk got hurt again, and now you're looking at, this is going on close to almost 2 years. I mean, he's a year and a half in. Like, will we see Punk fight? Do you think he will fight?
Honestly, no.
You don't think he'll ever fight?
No. And I mean, I just, and if it is, I mean, again, we just say he's 30, what did you say, 38?
37.
37, okay. What fight do you get? Well, and then what do you do? I mean, at this point, I mean, I guess he's gonna have to fight at least once.
He has to.
But I guess my thing is, like, it's not gonna be like a career fight. It's gonna be, I mean, right now, honestly, you put him in there maybe with a name just so you can get a good draw on a fight and call it a day. Because
the thing is, like, what event is he going to fight at? Like, this is Mickey Gall said summer. The perfect opportunity, of course, would be Saturday, July 23rd in Chicago.
Is he still fighting Mickey Gall?
I think that's the fight.
How many fights does he have in him?
I don't, like, these are all great questions that we don't know the answer to. And Punk is an incredible showman. I mean, he was a great professional wrestler. He's got a terrific personality. I mean, he's all over all hockey Twitter, and he's writing comics for Marvel and doing all this great stuff, and that's great, dude. But you gonna fight? Like, we want to know. Like, if you're not gonna fight, just tell us. It's cool. It's cool. It just didn't work out. It's fine. But man, this is gonna happen eventually, because the buzz from Punk is completely simmered. Now, the card that makes sense is Saturday, July 23rd on Fox. Holly Holm, Valentina Shevchenko are headlining in the United Center in Chicago, the land of CM Punk. But we haven't heard anything about that. Like, we haven't heard anything about.
Do you want him fighting it? I mean, I guess ticket-wise, yes, but if he gets beaten in his hometown,
oof, man. On that card, Rumble Johnson and Glover Teixeira, Edson Barbosa, and Gil Melendez. So those are three pretty big fights already.
Yeah.
And you would assume that you would want the Punk fight to be a big deal. And then,
is he even training yet? Because
I think he still is training because he suffered a shoulder injury.
No, I thought it was a back, wasn't it?
Well, the shoulder injury was the first one, and then the back injury was more recent. And then 201 is Lawler Woodley in Atlanta. That fight card right now has the Demetrius Johnson and Wilson Heiss flyweight fight, because they've literally run out of people for Mighty Mouse to fight at this point. And then you're looking at September 3rd, Hamburg, Germany, Arlovsky Barnett, and then Cleveland, which is Miocic Overeem. So where is that going to happen? It's not going to be in August because there's no fight card in August. Is it going to be all the way in September? The fight night card in Germany has Ryan Bader and Ilir Latifi on it, and Miocic Overeem is co-headlined by Verdum and Rothwell. So where exactly does he fit in? Is it just you throw him on the Chicago card? But he's got to win. You don't want to lose in your hometown.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a legit question to ask, and we should continue to keep asking it, because I don't know when this is going to actually happen.
And it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I mean, unless they throw him on one of those, as you said. So,
yeah, we'll see. Like, we say that sometimes just because we don't we're excited to see what happens and we don't know what's going to go on. I legitimately have no idea. And that's not good for a guy who you wanted to consider a major draw and somebody who get a lot of mainstream eyes in the sport, and the guy hasn't fought in a year and a half. I remember writing an article in the infancy of this site about potential CM Punk opponents in July of last year. And we still have not even gotten, like they say Mickey Gall is going to be the guy, but we don't know that for a fact.
You know what the sad part about this whole thing is?
What?
I think there may be a better chance of us seeing him in a WWE ring than a UFC octagon.
It's not the craziest thing in the world. Everyone goes back, right?
Especially when you make that kind of money and imagine him showing up. I'm just saying, I mean, I just think at this point, it's rack it up to a loss or something. I mean, you've had almost, 18 months?
Yeah, he's been a great ambassador for the sport.
No, he's been great. I mean, he's doing his thing. He's, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I just think at this point, I mean, what if you beat Mickey Gall? Great. So what? Now you don't fight again for another 6 to 8 months? You're going to be 38?
Yeah, what about if he gets hurt? Like this,
I mean,
it's just so many things. I wish we could have ended the podcast on a positive note, but this is a question that's been bothering me for a while. Maybe we can get some outside help on it. Maybe like we'll kind of start to dig deep a little bit on this. But man, like I want to see the dude fight. But
I mean, we say we want to see him fight, but what if he doesn't look good? I mean, I just there's a reason we haven't seen him fight yet. And you can say it's injury, you can say whatever, but there's a reason we haven't seen him fight yet.
Yeah, this is absolutely true. That's pretty much all we got, folks. Sean, you got anything else you wanted to get off your chest before we head out here?
No, make sure you check us out, thefullmountmma.com, at the Full Mount on Twitter, SS Sports Talk for me. Any questions you got, at BCoyle11 for Mr. Brian Coyle.
You just did my job, Sean. What a company man. That's absolutely excellent. We're going to have full previews, as we mentioned, of Rockhold, Bisping, and Faber and Cruz are already up on the site. I will be previewing Max Holloway and Ricardo Lamas. Holloway on an 8-fight winning streak. It's hard to remember.
He didn't get the Hawaii match, huh?
Yeah, he didn't get McGregor in Hawaii. Surprising. And then Hector Lombard and Dan Henderson in a old man strength fight, which is both of them are going to be gassed by round 2. So there will be a knockout, I think, in that one.
A Guida sighting.
Yeah, Clay Guida sighting is one of my favorites against Brian Ortega. Dustin Poirier is on this card fighting
Bruce Leroy against Cole Miller.
Bobby Green. So fun card for UFC 199. I am excited. Just for our own sake, I am taking Rockhold and Cruz. You're taking Bisping and Cruz to win on Saturday night. You are 2-0 so far in the little challenge we got up against each other. I am 1-1. So
Jessica Andrade looks huge compared to this Jessica Penny. Holy cow.
I mean, Sean, not listening, that's par for the course. On this
no, I mean, they're both weighing 2-1. Have you go to UFC.com
I'm looking at it right now.
Look at the Jessica Penny fight against Jessica Andrade when they bring it up there on the FS1s.
Well,
you can't tell me both of them are 115.
Photography you can do some wonderful things with photography.
I guess. Yes, you're right.
On that note, we want to thank you guys for listening. Remember, check us out online on iTunes. Subscribe to the podcast. Leave a comment and rate us. Find us on YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find us on thefullmountmma.com. For Sean Stanley, I am Brian Coyle. Everybody have a great night, a great weekend of fights, and we'll be back next week right here on TFM Live, the official podcast of thefullmountmma.com.
Podcast was brought to you by thefullmountmma.com. Check us out on Twitter at The Full Mount.